Welcome to the Divorce Allies podcast and video series. Today, we are taking a little bit of a break from divorce and we're going to be talking about business and specifically websites. So, I'm part of the Divorce Allies. I help our members transition in the post divorce phase if they're wanting to start a side hustle or launch their business. That's where I step in. And I wanted to bring my friend and someone that I really look up to, all of his knowledge and skills. This is Marco. Marco, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I will kind of give more of your professional bio towards the end, but Marco, he's a UX designer. So, in layman's terms, he builds websites that are easy for people to use. Do you want to add anything to that, Marco?
Yeah, not only is it about making things easy to use, but I think there's also a lot of business strategy involved. So one of the things that people forget about UX designers is that we actually exist to help your businesses grow rather than just look pretty.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly where I want to start because I'm helping a lot of my clients with starting their website. A lot of my clients, a lot of the members in the Divorce Allies come to me and say, okay, I have this idea. I know I need to be on socials and I know I need to have some type of a website. But I think in a lot of our minds, a website feels like a really big investment, whether that's money or time. And so I help my clients get their landing page through Squarespace. I love Squarespace. Get a page, put their information on it, get their pictures on it, get about them. But I think that's kind of where my expertise ends. And I never want to say that I'm the expert at everything because that's incorrect, but I can get them started. But then once they're kind of started and need the transition into something bigger, kind of like from your perspective, what's the biggest misconception that small business owners have about their websites?
Well, I think a lot of times the people treat websites as part of just like a checklist. I need to get a website
Mhm.
out there. Once it's out there, then it's going to do the works. But that isn't really true. In fact, websites are they're kind of like your best employee, right? And they should be trained and they should be designed to help your businesses grow. And what do I mean by that? When I say that they're like your best employee, they're the ones who first greet your viewers. They're the ones who help introduce you as a business. And they're also the ones that help sell your service and your product.
Mhm. Mhm. Where do you think people, I mean, I can kind of also answer this too, but from my experience, it is a piece on the checklist, right? Like, okay, I have my business name. Now I probably need my business colors and logo, and then I'm going to make that website. And I did the same thing when I launched my business last year. It's just something that I needed to do. And now I'm coming to you being like, Marco SOS, I need to adjust my website. It doesn't necessarily reflect, okay, to an extent, but it doesn't reflect me and my services so much anymore. I want to kind of expand it. But what is a big mindset shift that people need to, you keep saying that it's the best working employee, but like what does that actually mean to someone who, like, for instance, let's say is selling cookies? Like, she's like, well, I'm in the kitchen making the cookies. How is my website my best employee? Like, maybe help kind of with that mindset a little bit.
Yeah. So essentially a website is your salesperson that could reach anybody in the world. It's your salesperson that's working 24/7.
Mhm.
And I think the mind shift that I want people to have when they're creating their websites is that your website is not a brochure. Your website is not a passive piece of art that people look at. Your website is supposed to help your audience figure out how to do one specific thing. And that one specific thing usually, not always, but usually, is the one that generates money for your business. I like to
Mhm.
call that the money maker,
Mhm.
because it's that kind of, like a business can have multiple services, it can have multiple products. But the way that your website should be designed is really just to be marketing that one specific thing so that you can generate the sale.
Mhm.
And I know that a lot of times we want to add a lot of personality, and that could go there. But I think the strategy that we should be thinking about with our websites is that everything that goes on the website has to help you sell that one money maker, right? It could be about me. Like for example, for me, I can put an about me page on my website and say like, oh, this is what I like to do when I design. This is how I think as a designer. Like, I'm focused on sustainability and accessibility and things like that. But then I should always find a way to invite people to avail of my services or my product, right?
Mm,
Like, one mistake that I've seen a lot of times is that founders always tend to put very personal things like, oh, here's my dog on my free time. I like traveling and listening to music. Yeah, sure. But then the truth is, like, the people visiting your websites, they don't really care so much about that. Like, maybe they do, maybe it's a fun fact, but then they're really there to see whether you're a right fit to solve their problems. And so that's how you should be positioning every part of your website, you know?
yeah, I just had to type like 3 notes because I don't wanna go too fast forward to social media because I think that's the perfect tie-in of, like, websites used to be where you put your personality. That's where you used to say, "I have 3 dogs and their names are X, Y, and Z, and I love to cook on the weekends." But I think that's not now where social media, like, kind of almost leave that on socials, but I wanna have a whole topic on that later. But you brought up another great point about, like, what is it that you're trying to sell? I think so, for instance, the Divorce Allies, we have the Divorce Allies, which is a membership. We also have the Divorce Vault, which we are selling digital products. Myself personally, I sell my services, right? Whether it's a package or an hourly type of like consultation. How do you approach, like, if someone comes to you with, I mean, they could be a plethora of things. It could be a service, it could be a product, it could be a downloadable, it could be a membership. How are you approaching to build their website based on what they're selling? I know that's kind of a broad question, but I just kind of want to get you talking about how you see websites, how you're planning the strategy behind building it.
Yeah, that's great. Um, Honestly, my step number one is always to understand the my clients, so the business owners, and understand the way their business works. But then, I understand that a lot of times, us business owners, we have like a lot of different things that we can do and that we can sell. We know that we could provide value in so many different ways. So the first question that I like to ask clients is, number one, what is the most sustainable way of generating money? Meaning, what is the most replicable way? What's a way that I can scale what I'm doing? Is it something that I can do efficiently? But also, the second most important thing is, what kind of project, or which of my offerings do I enjoy doing the most? Right? The point
Mhm.
is, when we have a business, it's not just about selling. When we have a business, it's because we know that we can do something, we want to be able to enjoy it, and we can help other people kind of reap the benefits of our passion for that.
Yeah.
And so when founders and solopreneurs are able to define that one thing on their business that makes them happy and that they can do easily and that generates money that can sustain their business, then that's how you can easily identify, okay, this is kind of what we should be doing as our moneymaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is very interesting because now in this day and age, we were just talking about it. So, sidebar, Marco and I, we like to get coffees on Sundays and chat about life and work. And it's usually mostly about work. But because we're both so passionate about what we're doing and our businesses and services kind of intertwine. But we were talking that, like, this day and age, you can literally sell a cup on TikTok and somehow make $1 million that never was possible before. So if someone, I mean, I think it's just like hard for people to wrap their heads around, like, what is a moneymaker then? Like, should they still be focusing on their core process or product or service when they could still then go out on TikTok and make $1 million by selling a product? I think that's a big question too, because then if you introduce the concept of Stan Store and a lot of these other companies that are trying to almost like delete websites, do you have an argument against that?
um I mean, I think the website is a good way to have a lot of flexibility. So these other products like Stand Store and things like that, it makes it a lot easier for you to sell on social media. But then it's a completely different strategy as well, and it works. That's just not kind of my world of web design, right? So the
Yeah.
idea behind what I do is a lot more of kind of building trust and having a place where people can go and refer to really quickly without the noise of social media. And I
Mhm.
think that's another thing is like with social media, you're competing against the world. Your content competes against the world. And so that's a great place for you to differentiate yourself against everyone else.
Yeah.
But when your audience is on your website, it's one-on-one. You're alone,
Mm.
right? You don't have your competitors on your website. And so it's really a good place for your potential customers to get to know you in a more intimate way.
Yeah. Well, let's just get into the social media conversation because we've already brought it up and we're talking about it again because that is really my bread and butter. I help solopreneurs, business owners, founders, especially with their personal brand. So, okay, they have a company page. They have a Facebook company page, a LinkedIn company page, maybe even now their Instagram. But the owners themselves are really wanting to get out on social media because they realize that you have to have a personality. You can't just win by having a stagnant graphic post on Instagram saying, I sell tax advice. No one cares anymore. At this point, people in social media, they want to know if their tax consultant is hiking on the weekends, if their tax consultant is obsessed with cats, if their tax consultant loves banana bread. Who knows, right? But so that's my lane that I like to stay in is really refining that message and making sure that your personality is coming across but also matching the brand. But I think then people still are forgetting that the website is crucial because people are not necessarily buying on social media. This is where they're consuming. They're going to scroll for 20 minutes and watch all your different reels, go through all your carousels. But then ultimately, they're going back to the website to purchase, correct?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's spot on. Like the way that I always think about it is that a website can lie in different areas of your sales pipeline. And for those who
Mhm.
don't really know what that is, the sales pipeline is basically like how you or how your potential customers kind of go through the entire process from the point of contact, meeting your brand for the first time until actually paying for your service, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, social media is in the very beginning of that sales pipeline. The first contact that they ever have with your brand is on social media. And
Yeah.
that's where you're able to build that nice connection. That's where people get to think like, oh, you know what? I like this person. Like if I were to hire a tax advisor, I want my tax advisor to be my friend, and I think I could be friends with this person,
Totally.
right? And the website then fits in a little bit later in the sales pipeline, right?
Yeah.
The website isn't meant to be the first point of contact. The website is there for people who already have a little bit of sense of trust or a little bit of curiosity about your brand. So the way
Mhm.
we contact them is different as well. It's like when you meet somebody for the first time versus when you meet somebody again who you've met before, and it's kind of like, hey, we know each other already. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's why it's so important then is because if you've already built all this trust on socials, when you go to the website, you don't want to have to search for 20 minutes to figure out how do I buy from this person? I want to. I already I'm their friend. I've just stalked them for an hour. I just want to buy at this point. So like that's kind of also where Marco steps in. It's like make your website easy and clean and let your consumer consume your things. And I think a lot, again, like a misconception that I see a lot is like big, robust websites that have blogs and a landing page that you could scroll for probably like 20 scrolls and have 20 different sections. And it was something when we were building the Divorce Allies website. I know I came to you for a lot of advice, and it's complex because we have so much we want to share. We have so much content we want to share out and resources, but you were like, make it like you have to make it simple. And I need you to kind of talk us through the websites and like should they be big and robust, should they be small and simple, like what's the happy medium? What do you think?
Um, I think there are reasons why you would want to have a big website, and it's
Okay.
totally valid. For example, SEO, you can't really compete a lot if you have a small website because SEO depends on backlinks. It depends on a lot of like valuable content and things like that. So you can actually have a website with hundreds of pages, like content pages, to drive this, and that's totally valid. um, just as valid as having a one-page website, right? But I think the important thing to think about here is, even if you have all of these different components on your website, like, you have to have one action.
Mm.
Because imagine if you have like 100 different pages, or even if you have like 30 different sections. For example, I put a quote from a past client to help you understand that I've helped this client before. I can put my process, I can put kind of the features that I have on whatever I'm building, I can put the different services. All of these are valuable information. All of these things are things that your customer would likely be interested to understand or to know. But the strategy behind this one is you always have to find a way to connect it to that one thing that you're selling, right? So, for example, if I'm talking about something like, these are some of the features that I do, my money maker is still, call me so that we can start the process. Or if I show you a 3-step process, my first step is discovery, where I do all of the research. The second step is where I kind of lay out the strategy part. And the third step is when I make things look pretty. Call me now so that we could start with step 1.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So the strategy is like, it's not always just about one product or one service, but it's one action that you want your users to do. And they have to be clear about that, right? A good test for this is if you pull out all of the buttons that you have on all of the pages of your website and lay it out in front of you, would you be able to know what the person who designed the website wants you to do? Right.
Okay.
So for me, like, a lot of times, this is what I see with people's websites, is that they have 20 different buttons. They have 20 different actions. For me, it's a maximum of 3.
Okay.
Right. You have a primary action. I want you to do this. The second action, the secondary, would be like, oh, you aren't ready to hire me, then you might be interested in this thing to help you build trust.
Okay.
And if you're not yet ready for that, I might possibly have a third action that says, okay, well, if you're still not comfortable with that, or if you're not super sold, check this out. You might be interested in some content or something like that. But that's maximum for me,
Okay. So when you're saying, like, if I would pull on because I'm thinking about my website right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I would pull all the buttons, are you saying they all should say, call me, email me, or are you saying there should be a differentiation of those 3 tiers of buy, email, watch? Like, what do you mean specifically?
I mean, so what I mean is, like, your primary button, which is usually the one that sticks out the most, that pops from your website. This is the moneymaker, right?
Okay.
And for someone in service, it might be book a call with me, because this is how we're able to understand and give a proposal. So that's step 1. The secondary button, it's not a point of contact, because the point of contact is the first button.
Okay.
So in this case, the second button might be, here are some free worksheets that you can do so that you could DIY the service and see if you can pull it off yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And in that case, when they download this, you also want to tell them, like, look, I can guide you if you want. You can get in touch with me. That's your primary button again.
Okay.
So again, like, your secondary and your tertiary button, these are different actions that you might want to give your clients who are not yet sure if they're ready to jump. But they should always be pointing back to the primary button.
Okay. I have so many questions that I kind of want to do a rapid fire later, but I wanted to also talk about kind of this bigger case study, because the button, like, all of these things, I think if we get into the weeds, that's even better. And if our listeners, if we've lost you, that's a good thing, because this is this is reinforcing the fact that Marco is the expert. And if you don't know, like, the website can be so complex, and there are people that are out there that can help you. It doesn't have to be a headache. These are just things that there are people in positions made to do these things. But there was a really good case study you were telling me about kind of like the evolution of a website. Because again, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, when I started my business, I just needed a website to refer to put blogs on, for people to contact me, right? And we have a mutual colleague who, she is in the arts. So she was first doing just commission artwork. You helped build her website. well, I don't want to kind of ruin the story, but can you kind of give us like the overview of this case study of like the first goal and how you approached it, and then kind of the evolution of her sales and how you're going to reapproach this new website for her?
Yeah, so she contacted me and she had a lot of different ideas with what to do. And initially, she wanted to have kind of like a portfolio that she could show people. And she had an idea of what to do to implement it, but then I first asked like, okay, but what is the desired outcome of this? Now that after people see your website, what do you want them to do?
Mhm.
And she said, well, there are two possible things that I want to do. One is I want to collaborate with businesses and perhaps have like some shows or exhibits or things like that, participate in events. The second one is for people to get in touch with me for commissioned work so that I could do like one-to-one work with them. I said, okay, great, but then what are we focusing on now?
Mhm.
Right? That's number one. You have to have that one moneymaker. You can do both, but have that one thing to focus on. And at that time, she said, okay, I want to focus on commissioned work. I like hearing stories from people. I like this collaborative environment and things like that. So we designed the website specifically for that. And it's been almost a year now. I got in touch with her recently and she said, okay, Marco, I have gotten enough commissions. It has been fun, but now I am ready for the next step. I want to collaborate with businesses. And so when we reviewed her website, I said, this strategy doesn't fit anymore because
Mhm.
we've built everything around them contacting you for commissions. We've talked about how you can tell a story. We've talked about how you don't really just do whatever you want, but you try to add all of these little details about their lives into your work. But when you're dealing with a business, it's completely different, right? When
Mhm.
you're collaborating with another business, they don't need to know that you understand their lives. They need to know that you're reliable, that you've done this before. They need to know that they can trust that you're going to deliver in time. They understand your quality and things like that. So then
Mhm.
everything on the website is completely different, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole way of communicating changes. And I think that goes to show that like it hasn't even been a year to be honest, but your business will change really really quickly, especially if you're in the early stages. And
Yeah.
that's fun, that's normal, but everything that supports your business should evolve as well,
Mhm.
right?
Well, and if like the title of this episode, that your website is your hardest working employee, you have to audit your employees. You have to give them feedback. You have to make sure, are we still working really well together? What is working for you? What is working for me? And so I think that if you vision your website as an employee, like if my employee, my hardest working employee right now is not hardworking, and that is my fault because I haven't put the feedback back into my website. It's not doing its job because I've neglected it for literally 10 months. And I think that that's so common is we create something, our business is booming. We're like, all right, well, the website's just there. It's just holding space in case someone randomly comes across my Instagram and wants to go back. But my Instagram and my website would not reflect. On my website, I really am pushing podcast creation. And on my Instagram, it's only about content creation. So there's a big disconnect. So that's something that off camera, me and Marco are going to solve. But I do still want to do a rapid fire, but to kind of just like round up this conversation, if a business owner or a founder, someone who already has a web page, a website right now, if they listen to this and need to do like a self audit of their website to have a good conversation with their hardest working employee, what are three things that they should be going like a check, almost like a checklist that they should be making sure is aligned?
Yeah, so first I would get a friend and show them the page like this for 5 seconds and then close it and ask your friend, tell me exactly what I do. What value will you get from dealing with me? And if they can answer, then it's good. But if they say, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with this," then
Mhm.
you need to work on your messaging,
Yeah.
right? The
Mhm.
second one is what I mentioned earlier, get all of your buttons. Don't put any context, just put all of your action buttons in front of you and think about if I didn't know anything about this business and I saw these buttons, do I know what I'm getting myself into?
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think the third one is really just to assess like what do I enjoy doing the most? again, this is your business, but then you don't have to be miserable doing it.
Mhm.
And you can have a business for anything nowadays. And I think it's important that when you identify your moneymaker, that one thing that you want to focus on for this section of your business, it has to be something that you enjoy, something that you can see yourself continuing, and something that you think that you could build on.
I love that. And well, the number one piece of advice you gave is to call a friend, and that's what you and I do. It's like, does this make sense? Does this, whether it's content, whether it's a blog, whether it's a post, whether it's a recording, whatever it is, it's like, can you watch this from your perspective and let me know if this is making sense or anything? Because you have to find, and I think you and I, we're very fortunate we have each other, and we're also in a community that there's tons of other like-minded people that we can kind of bounce ideas off of. But if you do not have that and you are looking for things, looking for someone, I think I am always open for like a 20-minute consultation call, doing an audit of your social media, looking at your website. I'm not going to give you advice like Marco is, because that is not my realm, but I can say, is this making sense? If you click that button, what am I going to get? So I'm always open for those things. So please, especially in the Divorce Allies, we are a space of just helping women, empowering each other. But it is just important, like even content. Is your social media, if your social media is bright pink and glitter, and then your website is kind of more like sharp edges and a like masculine, that's a disconnect too. So you have to also make sure, is everything in your brand, everything in your business cohesive? And we didn't really even talk about cohesion of a website, but maybe that's a different episode. But I do, if you have an extra like few minutes, maybe I could just ask you some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
Okay. How frequently does someone need to kind of audit their website?
All the time. Well,
Don't tell us that.
if it's not working, or if there's something, I think all the time. Yeah, because there's always something that you can improve. There's always something that you can optimize. Again, your business is always growing, so should your website.
Okay. So like once a week, like give us like a number.
I guess once a month should be fine.
Okay.
If you were conscious about data and tracking analytics and stuff, perhaps once a week, but then I think once a month is okay.
Okay. Quotes, like you mentioned earlier, quotes or recommendations on the website. How do we need to follow those up? Because you're saying everything needs to relate back to the sale point. So is it okay to just have like a quote from a past client? Or what do you think?
Yeah, well, if you want me to help you like I helped this last person, get in touch with me. Something like that, you know?
Yeah. Okay. 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 Um, Something that you also made a point on my past website I was making, I would have like circle pictures of myself, and then I would have a button that's more of a rectangle. Can you just like, that's not a question, it's just a statement, but why? Like, why did you point that out?
Because there are different kind of feelings that you get with different shapes, and I think it has something to do with the brand thing that you mentioned earlier. It's more visible with color, like hot pink versus dark gray, but shapes also have a lot of emotion there. So you have to make sure that it aligns with the emotion and feeling that you want when you're talking to these people who are viewing your website.
Okay. What question should every person ask a UX designer or someone helping with their website? If they're like interviewing three people or wanting to decide on someone, what question should a client ask the designer?
Could you repeat that?
Yes. So, like, if someone is in the market to shop for a UX designer, maybe they're considering hiring Marco or someone else, what question should they always ask you or someone else to kind of help them make their final decision?
Ask for their process. If they start with looking for inspiration online and things like that, then they're there to decorate your website. But if they ask you about your business, about the problems, about your strategy, then they're actually there to help you with your business and find a way to make your website fit in your business.
Okay. Love it. Last thing, just repeat it. What is the most important part about a website?
Find that one moneymaker. Find that one moneymaker.
Okay. And then maybe you can give your hardest working employee a bonus and hire a UX designer to really seal the deal, right? That's what we're trying to
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, Marco, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add to this before I end it?
Um, have fun with it. That's actually no, I take it back. That's number one. Have fun with it. And then
Okay.
number two is find your moneymaker.
Okay. Well, if Marco piqued your interest at any point during this interview, this is his email below. He helps solopreneurs and founders stop losing leads to overcomplicated websites by redesigning their digital presence to focus on customer pain points and a single clear path to conversion. So, Marco, yes, do you have anything you want to promote to kind of put in there, or do you just say email you if you have questions?
Yeah, I guess one thing about me is that I'm also very, very passionate about sustainability, inclusivity, and accessibility in design. So if you think that your assets are currently working, but you haven't thought about any of these three things, I would invite everybody to think about like how you're representing these on your digital assets, not just your website, but everything in your business.
Okay, great. And for those listening, his email is Marco, Marco at MMANUEL.design. And me, I am part of the Divorce Allies. So I'm one of our 4 experts. My email is Anna, ANNA, at AnnaGrahamCreates.com. And if you're looking for more products, we have tons of resources at thedivorcevault.com. We have everything from wellness journals to content creation to figuring out your financial spreadsheets, anything divorce related or just women in transition related. So, Marco, thank you so much. This was great. I feel like I need to go do an audit on my website. So, that's what I'll be doing the rest of the day. Thank you. See you
Thanks,
later.
Anna. Bye.